Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me tonight. We are going to be painting a whale tail, that rhymes, with acrylics tonight. This is a really good beginner project, I think. It wasn't too difficult. There's a little bit of skill involved in getting the tail blended and all, but I think it's totally doable. Probably kind of mid-level beginner project. So hope you'll join me for this, get inspired to try it, and let's get started. All right, here is my example painting, and I painted this yesterday actually with my Facebook Patreon group. I got to watch the behind the scenes as I tried to figure out colors and all that good stuff, so kind of fun. And we have a very limited color palette. It didn't take a lot of colors to do this painting. We've got Quinacridone Magenta, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, for a little bit of green, and then I added Dioxazine purple and carbon black, and then titanium white. So that's about it. Just really any blues, pinks, purple. If you don't have to have exactly these colors, but kind of a cool blue and a greenish blue will be helpful if you have those. Like cerulean blue would work instead of the phthalo blue if you don't have that one. So anyhow, I did this on my 9 by 12 inch Strathmore notebook, mixed media paper. The link is down in the description if you want to practice on one of those. I recommend them. They take a little bit of, little extra water, so, but they're definitely cheaper alternative than having to do canvases every time. So this is a 9 by 12 inch canvas panel, and it's pre-gessoed, all ready to go. And I'm just going to start out by doing the sky real quick. And I've got my husband Mark here. I didn't mention that, sorry.
That's okay. Hey there, everybody.
He is here. He's manning the chat tonight, so if you've got any questions for me, you can ask it if you're during watching this live here. Actually, I want to grab the phthalo blue and a little bit of white. I want to mix those together. I'm just going to start up here at the top, and we'll have a little bit darker color up towards the top, and as I get down towards the bottom, I'm going to thin it, add more white to it so that it's getting lighter as it gets torn down. And every now and then I'm going to grab a little bit of bright white and just kind of streak it in there, not overblend it, just kind of try to streak it in a little bit. Grab a little bit more for some, like maybe little clouds or something. Maybe add a little bit of the Quinacridone Magenta too. A little bit more white. Streak those in. So we're just kind of trying to get the photograph that I was referencing came from Pixabay. If you want to put that up there, honey. I just searched for whale and found it. And I will have a traceable for this on my Patreon site too. So if you don't want to have to draw this yourself, after the shows air, what I do is take the original painting that I've painted for you guys during the show, and I trace it out with tracing paper so that you can have an exact copy of what I've done. So, and then I put it on Facebook or on my Patreon thing for you guys. So. All right, let's see. So I've gotten a little bit darker down here towards the horizon line because in my photograph, the horizon line, the water was a little bit lighter than the horizon. I'm going to grab a little bit more white. And while this is wet, I'm just going to kind of streak in a few more little cloud areas here. And I'm going on top of this wet paint, so I don't want to press too hard. So I'm just going to kind of very lightly try to get some little white streaks in there. If you your paint is starting to dry, just let it dry completely, and then you can go back and do this again. Just add a little bit more of that blue color down and put a little bit of the white on top of it. So you can still do this technique. You can also use this acrylic glazing liquid This is the golden glazing liquid. I'm going to put some of this out. Actually, I forgot to do that. And use that mixed with my paints, and it'll give me a little bit extra time. It's an extender. Not all glazing liquids have that property, though. Most glazing liquids will actually kind of almost speed up the dry time, but the golden glazing liquid has extending properties, so it will give you a little bit extra dry time in your paint. And that's important sometimes with acrylics. So even just a little bit of time can help, because they get sticky when they start to dry. You don't want to mess with them when they're in the middle of drying. Don't want to overblend. So I'm not overblending. I'm just kind of letting a few little streaks, and I'm keeping them horizontal so they look like little wispy kind of clouds that are happening there, right? I think that's pretty good. I might add a little bit more of that purple color, so I'm going to grab a little bit more of the Quinacridone.
Oh, we got another new color.
Quinacridone, yeah.
Quinacridone.
Quinacridone Magenta. Add a little bit of that there.
Somebody said that using the autofocus with that long brush is wreaking some havoc.
Uh-oh, okay.
So,
I'll try to keep it tilted to the side so it doesn't get picked up by the camera so much. Okay, so I can feel it getting sticky, so I don't want to mess with it too much anymore. I'm just gonna let it sit, and what I can do is once it's dry, I can put a glaze of color over there if I want to add any more purple to the sky. But I think we're good. I'm going to clean that out really well. My water, and wipe off the extra water from my brush, and then I'm going to use this. Now this paint is wet, so I'm hoping it's not going to stick to my ruler, but I think if I do this quickly, I can get it on there pretty fast. So I'm going to go just a little bit above the halfway mark. So here's my halfway mark, and I'm going to go maybe an inch and a half above that or so, and we'll do our water line there. And I'm going to grab a little bit ultramarine blue with my white. And I'm going to use that for my far distant water. I'm just going to go right along that ruler line. Now you could also use tape if you wanted to, so you could let the sky dry completely and use tape, but that worked. It gives you a nice straight line. Grab a little bit more white and use a little bit of that on here. Just really brighten up that edge. Mark played hooky from work today, so we had visitors in, my aunt and uncle from California, so shout out to Aunt Cindy and Uncle Harry. They're on their way on the road again, but they stopped to see us traveling. That was fun.
yeah, but we had to clean the house.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Hey, we needed to, though.
The spring cleaning came late this year.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm adding a little bit more of the darker color as I get down towards the bottom. So, but I want the light color to come to so I guess this is the third mark right here where I put the horizon line. And so I'm going to bring the light color down to almost the lower third. So I'm going to keep it fairly light all the way down to about there. And then we'll go really dark down below. But I found that when I did my example the first time, that I had this kind of medium value color up here real close to the tail. And when I did the water over the top, all these dark little bits were lost in this dark background. So I actually painted over the background again here and did it a second time with it lighter, and it worked a lot better that time. So just gotta nice thing about acrylics is you can make adjustments like that. They cover really well. So I'm gonna get more of my glazing liquid, so it's giving me a little bit more blend time. And also, as I get down towards the bottom here, I'm going to add a little bit of Phthalo Blue to my color too. I use the Phthalo Blue up in the sky. The Ultramarine Blue has more of that purple tone, so it's a good one to give you the illusion of depth in your water. I don't want to get too dark, so I'm going to keep it fairly light. And I don't mind doing all these like little streaky things here. That's actually going to add to the illusion that some of this is far away. So I'm going to add a little bit of the darker color around the side here where I can get away with it. And then keep it lighter in the middle. I've had my eye on this picture and online since I saw it, so don't know who took the actual photograph, but it's a really cool picture. And since then, I've had a bunch of people sending me pictures of whales that they've taken. One of my moderators, Kelly, she took a photograph near where she lives up in Canada, and of a mother and baby whale with their tails next to each other. So cute. So cute. What you doing, hun?
Well, for some reason, it's not playing on my computer.
Interesting.
It's playing on the phone, so I can chat on the computer, but for some reason the video is just buffering.
Are other people having problems too?
Some are, but not everyone, so
Interesting.
yeah. I don't know what's going
That's
on.
Not great. I'm just adding a little bit of that lighter color up there. Add a little bit right there in the middle too. This is starting to dry up here now, so I can kind of mess with it a little bit more. I didn't do a lot of the pink in my example, but then later on I noticed that there was quite a lot of pink up in the sky, so I didn't want to miss out on that. I'm going to go a little bit, well, just going to go with the, okay. I don't know what Mark's doing over there, but he's being really distracting right now.
I'm being very quiet over here.
Yeah.
Don't even know I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, blending that out. So you might want to go just a little bit darker along your horizon line there than I did, just to give a little bit more contrast. What were you saying?
Oh no, on the delay I heard it.
Yeah, it's loud.
Heard that hit. It was a pretty good bang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a power thing from my computer.
Okay.
I apologize. I'll try to be more professional.
Thanks.
You can dock it from my pay.
What do I pay you now? I can't even. Oh yeah, nothing.
Well, man, then I'll owe you money now if you dock money.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm grabbing a little bit of both of these blues. It'll make kind of this medium blue color. And then as I get down to the bottom, I'm actually going to grab a little bit of the purple and do that purple at the very bottom of the canvas. And I'm just working in small sections and keeping my brush stroke side to side so that if it streaks at all, it'll look like I meant to do that. Because this whole area is going to be kind of wavy and all kinds of things going on in it. But we want to get it nice and dark so that we can put some highlights on top. And our whale is going to be right in this little area right here. Okay, and so when you get to an area like this where you have a transition, what you're wanting to do is grab a little bit of both colors or make like a medium color. And if one of them is dry, I'm going to pick up more white and blend that in to that light area there, right? Then go down here, pick up a little bit more of the dark with the light color in there so that I have that medium color. If I go down too far, what I'll do is go back in and blend that part out later. I think blending is one of the things that is the hardest for people to kind of master with acrylics. It can be a little bit tricky because it doesn't give you a lot of time to dry like oils do. But because they dry fast, you can layer them a lot faster and do a lot more, I think, more cool effects with them than oils. Plus, you don't have to worry about the drying, waiting days for them to dry and all those chemicals and things like that. But they are a little bit trickier to blend.
Okay, we got a question.
Okay.
Somebody wanted to know if they wanted to get that royal blue shade, will ultramarine blue work?
This is ultramarine that I've got here.
Oh, okay. So
It's ultramarine and phthalo blue, yes. So ultramarine is just a little bit more on the purple side than phthalo blue. Phthalo blue green shade is a little bit more on the green side, obviously by the name. Phthalo blue red shade is almost the same color as ultramarine blue. So if you have ultramarine, you don't need the red shade of phthalo blue. You want to get the green shade because they're almost identical. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to grab some more of this purple here. And I'm going to mess with this while it's wet until it tells me to stop, because it's going to start to dry pretty quick here. So once it starts to dry, I'm going to hand this off to Mark so that he can dry it for me. But while it's still kind of flexible and wet, I'm going to go ahead and kind of try to put in a few little brush strokes of purple in here, so for some of my darkest areas. And then right here where that wave is hitting from his tail coming out of the water, or her, I'm going to put a lot of dark purple there. A little bit more.
Do I need to look up whale facts?
Probably ought to, yeah.
Okay, well, I know that you can't put them in any room in your house for sure. Not like the starfish.
True. True.
So.
Well, they could go in the bathroom.
There'd be no room for anything else, but okay.
Well, just the whale picture, not the actual whale.
Oh, but we could put regular starfish in there.
That's true. That's true. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, there's a little line here. So I've done kind of this choppy section that's kind of like a flattened. This area is kind of more like an oval here that's kind of really smushed. I haven't filled in the top section, though. That's just kind of dark along this bottom area. And then it kind of extends out this way a little bit with the dark. And then there's just a few little, like, small choppy waves. So I just did some short little brush strokes randomly kind of mixed in there. And then there's like a large dark wave right here. So try to get those in. And then I'm going to pass this on to you, honey, so you can dry it really well, if you don't mind. So that I can draw on it.
What if I say no?
Sorry.
Okay.
Too tired to argue with you tonight. All right, so we'll do Stickman while he's doing that. This is our mascot Stickman. He comes out once a show, and we put something on him having to do with whatever it is we're painting that night. So we'll give him the whale tail here. He got a bird. Oh, he got a finger painted flower. If you missed the finger painting show, that was pretty epic. I did back-to-back shows with Cinnamon Cooney and Ginger Cook, and we all finger painted flowers, so that was really fun. All right, he's kind of gets something added to him. Mark drew him out, and he gets something added to him depending on whatever we are painting that night, so it's kind of fun. Just to be silly, let loose a little bit. Painting's fun. You kind of can't take it too seriously. And I hope you guys are inspired to try this project. If you're new to my channel, we wanted to welcome you. And
it's a little tacky, but
I think, yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just going to use regular school chalk to draw this out. I find that it's easier and gentler because it's kind of so soft. You can use pencils, like the Scriball pencil, water-soluble watercolor pencils and that kind of thing. but sometimes they can scrape off your paint and be a little bit hard to erase. So I find that the just regular school chalk, especially the white, if you can do it white with white, it erases super easy and just makes for a really good sketching tool. So I'm going to do the bottom of the tail right about here, I think. See if it'll hold right on this. Once the paint's wet still, it's still tacky a little bit. So I'm going to do this curved line up from here. Fairly narrow in the middle there, almost like a tree trunk. Like you would do a tree trunk there. And then, let's see, I think I want the top of it to be right about here. So I'm going to curve it down and back up and down. So it's got kind of this long sloping curve like that. And then I'm going to come underneath and do another one, but widen it out in the middle a little bit. And then bring it up and out. Actually, a little bit thinner right there. And this is going to curve that way, and then this one's going to curve out and meet up with that line there. Okay, I think that's pretty good. And then the middle of the tail is going to end right about here. So make sure this side is a little bit longer than this side. So you can measure it with your fingers. I usually just kind of measure it out with my fingers and make sure, but that looks about right. So right about here, I'm going to make a line from the middle of the tail at the top here and curve it down to that point right there. And it kind of points out towards this way. So does that make sense? You follow me, hon?
Of course.
Here.
Draw with chalk. Draw lines.
Okay. And this is going to be raised up just a little bit where that comes up. So this is going to kind of come below it. And then it's going to curve up over that line and meet down again with that. Right there. Does that make sense? I just asked that again. Sorry. I guess I must say that a lot.
It does make sense.
That's one of... There's a YouTuber that I watch that I can't remember what his phrase is. He has a phrase that he says all the time, and it cracks me up every time he says it. So I'm sure there's probably things that I say a whole lot. Because it's not a phrase you would normally use in everyday conversation, you know. Okay, so I'm just going to check that and make sure that that from there to there is equal from there to there. And I might be able to bring this out just a little bit more. I just want to make sure it's nice and thin right up to this. So you really want it to taper all the way to the ends on either side here. It's kind of like a wing. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Hopefully you're able to see that drawing. That's as hard as it gets, guys. This is pretty easy drawing. I would say definitely on the drawing portion of it, definitely beginner level drawing. It's really easy.
Well, if people join your Facebook group there, they can see Stick Whale Tail.
That's true. Marked
Special edition.
Mm-hmm.
Limited edition.
Yeah. It was impressive.
That almost sounded genuine.
Okay, grabbing a little bit of black and purple, both. Just adding the purple to kind of give the black a little bit more character. And purple, really, you could use purple instead of black, because purple is plenty dark for this. It's almost, as far as the chromatic colors go, you know, on the color wheel, purple is your darkest color. So if you're looking for a color to substitute for black, your doxazine purple is the way to go. Even on the palette, you can hardly tell the difference between those two colors. It's so deep in value. Okay. So most of this is going to be covered up here at the bottom by splashes, so I'm not worried too much about the bottom of the tail. But I do want it to be smooth on the sides here, so I'm just taking my time with the small round. I've got like a number 4 round here that I'm using, and I'm going to grab a little bit of that blending or glazing liquid just to make my paints a little smoother. You could just use water with your paints to kind of help smooth them out. It just makes them roll off the brush a little easier. And somebody was asking about, that they have trouble, that I don't use a lot of paint compared to them, and that they seem to be using twice as much or more paint than I was using in my paint tutorials. And that could be a couple different reasons. One could be the kind of paint you're using. So a thinner paint won't go as far as these heavy body acrylics, just because the heavy body acrylics, the professional level paints that I'm using here, they have more pigment load. So, but if you look, I'm really not putting a whole lot of paint on my brush. I tend to paint fairly flat. I don't have a lot of texture. So if you're going for texture, you're definitely going to be using the thicker your paint is going on the canvas, the more texture you'll have, and the more paint you'll use, obviously. So it just makes sense that it kind of corresponds. So I'm going to go here and use that dark color just to outline that front edge of that tail. Try to get it as thin as possible. And this is probably the hardest part. Just take your time. Make sure that that paint has nice fluidity, and add water to your paint if you need to. Especially with the heavy body acrylics, you definitely want to make your paint a lot thinner than you would normally use, and you may not want to use a brush that's this thick. You may want to switch to a liner brush where that's the thickest that it can. Even if you push it down as hard as it goes, it's not going to be able to make a very fat line on you. And then that might be easier to control. This one, if I was to press down all the way, you'll see later, I could make a really thick line with it. So for a beginner, you may not want to use this big of a brush. It may just be easier to switch to a smaller one. Oops. Did I say that? Okay, then I'm going to, for the top of the whale here, I'm going to clean that off. And I'm going to use this Phthalo Blue and a little bit of white and a little bit of that glazing liquid just to make it more fluid. There we go. And I'm making look at that bug on my canvas. It's the summertime, it's going to happen. So I'm making that kind of medium color that's sort of halfway in between those two. I'm just going to carefully fill that in. So if I press down, I can make a line about that thick. If I press down really hard on my brush. And then I go back through here and I just kind of run through lightly those thicker areas and kind of brush those off so that I don't have any thick streaky areas. And that'll help when you put multiple layers on top to give you a little bit smoother surface to work with. So just kind of, you don't have to do that. That's just how I like to work. Some people prefer thicker, more textured canvas, and that's fine. It's your painting. You do what works for you. So I'm just showing you how I do it. You don't have to do it the way I do it.
Okay. I'm just
going to come to your house and, you're like, wrong.
We're watching you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just trying to get caught up with all the chat and the questions
Okay.
here. We got 280 some odd people in here, so it's hard for me to catch up sometimes. But one question asked, they said that my golden open paint seemed to dry really quickly. despite using retardant glazing medium. Any further tips?
Golden open? Because open paints are supposed to dry like oils. They're supposed to give you longer dry time. That's really interesting. I don't know. They dry... I've never used the open paints because I've been afraid of how long I do have some. I really need to just try it because I've heard that they take a long time to dry in between layers. So I just haven't been interested in doing that. I'm happy with what these are doing, but I have heard that you can mix them with other acrylics and that they will extend the dry time too that way. So, but yeah, I'm sorry. I don't really know a lot about them. They from what I understand, they shouldn't be doing that. So if you're having a lot of problems with them, you might contact Golden. They have a really good customer service at their company and see if they can suggest something, for you to do to help out. Okay, so I kind of merged those two, but then I'm going to grab a little bit of that purple before I forget where that line is and put that in there. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. That's going to be our first layer on that tail. We'll definitely blend in some other colors to it, but that'll at least give us a good start. And I really probably should have done more in the background down there. I forgot what I did yesterday. That's why I don't... If you're new to my channel, welcome. I didn't go through this, but we do classes twice a week. So Tuesdays, I usually don't get my example painting done until either Monday or Tuesday. And this is why, because doing 2 a week, it's just so easy to forget the steps unless I write it down. Because there's a million ways of approaching a painting. It's not like rocket science. You can choose any number of colors. You can choose any number of ways of approaching it, layering it, and that kind of thing. So if I want to get it as close to my example as possible, I try to do the actual painting as soon after painting it as possible so I can remember exactly how I did the steps. Otherwise, if there's a week, I can't even tell you what I had for lunch yesterday. So you can imagine trying to teach a painting that's had 2 weeks to set in my studio and be like, what? I don't know.
Well, there is a lot of time. I mean, you spend in researching and and trying to develop this. It's not just sit down and let's paint. It's not like just get on and go. It's It's a lot of time behind the scenes spent for sure.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I do spend a lot of time kind of with it. Well, and that's what the folks that were watching me yesterday on Patreon, on my Facebook Patreon page got to see, because I got on it. I do a weekly Monday art chat with them and do a tutorial, but since we had guests today, I had to do my example painting for my tutorial, so they got to see me figure out how to paint this, which was fun. All right, so I'm just going to be layering different values of blue. So I'm going to be using all of these 2 blues plus white, plus mixing them together, plus a little bit of purple. So I may not call out every single color, but you can hopefully be able to tell that I'm trying to create some wavy lines, keeping them fairly horizontal, but as I go around this whale, I'm sort of sloping them a little bit, because the wake that is creating these kind of rings around him that are getting larger and farther away as they go away from him. So just trying to create that look. I'm going to grab my filbert, because that's what I used in my example one, and I'm going to grab a little bit of glazing liquid and a little bit of that medium value blue. I'm just going to add a little bit of that back in here for some color on these waves behind him. Now I don't want to get it too dark right there, because that's where we're going to put the splashes and all, but I do want some other of these colors. I don't want such a abrupt transition right there. So we'll just keep my brush horizontal when I get farther back and add a little bit of these colors.
We have another question regarding, somebody said that when they're holding a very skinny paintbrush, their hand starts hurting or kind of falling asleep. So is there any recommendation or thing that they could do to help with that?
Yeah, I mean, stopping every now and then and kind of moving, your wrist around, giving it a little rest is big. I have that problem when I draw. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like to draw a whole lot. When I do the traceables for these afterwards, sometimes, just sitting for, it might take me 15 minutes or so to, carefully trace out the design on a piece of tracing paper. And by then, just something about the way that I'm holding the pen or something, I usually get pain all through here, and it gets numb in my arm. Too. So I don't have that problem when I'm painting, though, fortunately, thank goodness. So it may be that I'm not holding, you may be holding your brush a little bit too hard. You may try to relax your grip a little bit. So you notice I hold my brush kind of, I'm holding it like I do a pen, but I'm not gripping it quite as tight. When you're putting a lot of pressure on your thumb to hold your brush in place, that puts a lot of pressure on these nerves, and I think that's why I have trouble when I'm drawing, because I'm doing that. I'm holding my pen or whatever I'm drawing with a little bit tighter. But if you will back off a little bit on your grip, you can still get good brush strokes. But I'm just kind of resting it on here to control it and maybe push it to twist it a little bit. But I'm definitely not tightening down and flexing my wrist back like this. That's probably where that problem is coming from. So if you find that you're flexing your wrist and it's doing this, you probably need to try to get it to where you're painting it with it a little bit more in a straight line. That might help. And then just every now and then, shaking out your wrist, and I kind of, massage my forearm too. But yeah, I do have that problem. Fortunately not with painting. Thank the Lord. That would be really bad. But it's not actually a bad idea to get in the habit of stopping every now and then, even just to stand up if you're sitting down to paint, and stretch your legs, because it can be good to get a rest. Okay, so I've got enough dark here now. So what I'm going to do is take this filbert, and I'm using the edge of it, and I'm going to go above some of these areas, grab a little bit of that blending medium, glazing medium. And when I'm loading my brush too, one of the other things that, depending on the kind of paint you're using, that could be one reason why you're using too much paint or more paint than I am. But another possibility is that that's another thing you want to do, is spray your paints out often to keep them moist. Moister paint will go, be thinner and go a little bit farther on your canvas. But also pressing down, like when you're loading your brush thick, just pulling a little bit from the corner here and then pressing it down to really push that paint into the bristles of your brush will do two things. It'll give you a better straight edge, and it'll also kind of control the amount of paint. Now, see, there's too much on there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it kind of like a squeegee, and I'm just going to twist my brush a little bit and smush it off. And then do the same thing on the other side. Twist my brush a little bit, smush it off. And then I can go back in and kind of flatten it out. So taking a couple extra seconds to not just grab paint and go straight to the canvas, but kind of find a clean spot and press your brush down. That'll help you control the amount of paint on your brush, and that's about what you want to see. You don't really want to see a lot of paint caked up on the sides, and you don't want it all the way to the silver part. That means you've got too much paint on your brush. And now, that's with flat brushes. Now, with round brushes, it's okay to get it up to the silver part. That's pretty normal. That's kind of how you load it, but that might be a little bit light. I want to get just a little bit dark, a little bit lighter. There we go. So we're going to start out kind of gradual and just start adding lighter color above some of these areas, like lights hitting it, just above these dark shadows. Okay, I don't want to go too late with this one. I think this one didn't take me very long, but I don't want to take too long on it today. So right in here, there was kind of some choppiness, so I'm just going to kind of barely tap my brush down. And this filbert's got a really pretty rounded edge, but you could do this with really a flat brush too if you wanted to. So do kind of like that. Do I need to zoom in, or you think it's okay? Can they see what I'm doing okay?
I can see what you're doing.
You can see? Okay.
Yeah, but I can zoom in a little bit if you need me to. You know, I like to use remote control.
Well, yeah, you might want to.
But then you'll want me to tell you if you go off camera, and
exactly.
that's way too much work.
You get in trouble a lot.
Yeah.
Don't pay attention.
Exactly.
Okay. I think we're doing okay. I think you can kind of see. But you can ask the audience, see what they're saying, watching. They'll be able to tell me.
Okay, it just hit, so we'll see what chat says here.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go on the other side and use the lighter color right up in this area for sure. And a little bit on some of those. I want to add a little bit of that really bright color. And just get that medium sort of color. Just doing very small kind of, now here you notice I'm kind of doing this curved thing. I'm not putting a lot of this lighter color in this middle part. There is a little bit of it, but it'll be just like about like that. So don't overdo it right here because we want this to stay really dark right along this back end of him. And I'm also kind of, if you notice, I'm kind of creating a continuation of the shadow that goes from one side to the other. In fact, I'm gonna go across here. I remembered later after I painted the whale tail in that I did this part first. That's okay. So you might want to do this part first and then put this part of the tail in. We'll just give it a second coat of paint. No big deal.
Okay, hope you understand this question.
Okay.
It sounds like an artsy question to me.
Yeah.
How do you get the extra paint for when you do the smush and twist? I try and get the paint everywhere. Were you loading the brush or something?
Yeah, when I was loading the brush. You may just need to get, or find a better, or like a cleaner spot on your palette. Is that what she means? Like that means you've probably got way too much paint. If you're smushing it and it's going everywhere, what you can do if you've got, if you've been working with the paint color and blending it and it's starting to get out of control, you can use your brush or use I'm going to clean this out so I can show you how to do it. And we'll just pretend this blue here is a color that we've mixed and it's way out of control and we've got way too much of it, spread out like this. What I do is just scoop it from the outside in, just like you would cake batter with the spatula, and then deposit it and kind of take my brush to a clean spot and then twist it and smush down. If you try to smush in the middle of the paint, it's just going to squish it, so you have to find a clean spot. So it doesn't matter how much paint I have on my brush. If I find a spot that's clean, I can just set it down and kind of twist and smush it. And I'm pressing down nice and hard. So I'm really pressing down to get that paint off the brush. So I'm going to go ahead and use this ultramarine while I got it on here. And I'm going to add some of that down in here. So I've got phthalo blue and white and ultramarine, a little bit of purple. And I've got, combinations of all these colors in here. And just adding different dimensions, and just as long as I keep these light colors sort of on the top and the darker colors sort of below somewhere, I can get these really interesting shadows and things happening. Okay, I hope that explained it for them. I don't know if I didn't understand it, they can ask again. But paint management is one of the trickiest parts, of learning to paint too, because it can be really one of the more frustrating aspects of it. a lot of times, you know, having a good brush makes a difference too. Okay, I think we're pretty good there. Yeah, it looks good in the picture on the camera there. Well, sometimes it's helpful to look at your thing farther away, you know? So, like, seeing it on camera for me is nice because then you can see things that you might have missed. I'm going to take my wet towel and just gently wipe off my chalk lines so I can see what I have and if I need to add anything anywhere. Looks pretty good. Let's grab my angle brush. This is a 1/2 inch angle, but you could use a larger one if you don't have the 1/2 inch. You could use the 3/4 inch, or 3/8 inch, I mean, angle. And we'll grab some more of that purple color. And I'm just going to touch up that tail right there. Grab a little bit of black. Touch up that tail where, there we go. Add a little bit more water to my paint. And then along the top of the tail, we'll just add a little bit of highlights. So I'm going to grab that kind of light color that we were using down here. And I'm going to add it along the front end. And I've kind of just loaded it, dipped the tip of the brush in and kind of brushed it out on the thing here. So I have it mostly on the tip of the brush. I'm going to brush that out. And then I'm going to grab some of that medium color that was the Phthalo Blue with white. I'm going to blend those two together. I'm just going to blend that out a little bit. Add a little bit more of the light color. This brush is acting weird to me. It's being very stiff. I haven't used this one before. This is a newer brush, so it just hasn't broken in yet.
Where'd you get the brush?
Brush Guys.
Brush Guys.
Mm-hmm. This is one of the Brush Guys brushes that on the Zen. This is the Royal Langnickel Zen line of brushes. So
and then there's a link down in the description to the Brush Guys.
Yeah, there is. Yep. So if you're looking for brushes, I've got a list. If you follow the link in the description in the materials list, you can see all the different brushes that I recommend. That I'm using all the brushes that I've. The Princeton ones are the green ones, and then the Zen are the silver chrome-looking ones. So there's that. And I'm gonna get more of this dark phthalo, a little bit of purple, because there's dark on top of him. So I need to add a little bit of that darkness. I don't know what is going on with this. I don't know if this paint is dry up here or what, but it is not wanting to blend for me.
I'm making the executive decision since I'm the CEO of Zoom. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to zoom in while you're doing that section there.
Okay, I'm just going to do short, choppy brush strokes here. Kind of blend it out that way. Go along that back end there. There we go. All right, grab some more of the light color. There's a little highlight right in here on the tail. I'll switch to my round brush. I feel like I can get better control with it. Grab some of that purple. And this is raised up more than I've got it here, so I'm going to raise that up. It's hole right there. A little bit of ultramarine blue maybe with the black. There we go. Leave that up there. Good. There's my dog snoring in the background. It's hilarious. Mark took a picture of him preparing for the show. He was already making his bed out for the show. He likes to sleep in here with us. He's being laughed tonight. That's awesome. Snoring. Okay, so I'm grabbing some of that really light blue. This is the lightest value blue. Here I'm going to come right along the, oops, didn't mean to do that. Rub my brush off there. Come right here and just pull a little highlight right there. And then I'm going to come right along this front edge here and do it along there too. Just a little bit in that black. I'm not going right up to the edge, but I'm going kind of over the black just a little bit. Just a little highlight. Same thing right here.
Well, it seems like I've inspired somebody to paint.
Really?
Yes.
Who?
Well, somebody's posted in chat here saying that that her husband was watching the poppy painting and saw me paint one, so he decided he'd try it too.
Nice.
And now they're going to try to do a whole painting with them, and it's probably going to be this one.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah,
this is a good one for guys. It's very gender neutral. Safe dude painting. Yeah.
Guys could paint poppies too.
I'm not saying they can. I'm just saying, you know, I get asked by the guys in my group to paint other things besides flowers a lot. So not a lot, but you know. Okay, so I'm going to grab some of the Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue mixture. Maybe a little bit of the purple. I'm just going to grab these darker colors and I'm going to tap in below this section right here and just tap in some really dark little choppy things with my fan brush.
Somebody just asked, how much pressure are you putting on the paintbrushes when you're doing those short, choppy strokes?
Very little, just barely tapping down. So, and you can see how lightly I'm holding the brush. So it's very, very light, and I'm going to put a few in here as well. And a few out this way in some of these darker areas. Just a few times I'm going to drag it maybe a little bit. Dragging it will kind of give you longer sort of. Yeah, that looks good, I think. All right. Clean that off. I'm trying to avoid the water as much as possible. I will dip that into the water and just try to brush it off, but I'm not going to clean it out in the water because these fan brushes will get, these hog bristle brushes will get floppy the longer, you know, the more you mess with them in the water. So, you know, I'm trying to keep it as stiff as possible. So I'm going to grab this white blue mixture here. And I'm going to dip a little bit of that dark blue in there with it. So I'm not going to blend them together. I'm just going to do that. You saw I just kind of pulled it through that lighter color once too. Let me do it one more time. Okay. So I've got a little bit of both colors on my fan brush, and it's loaded fairly thick with paint because I don't want to have to press too hard here. And I'm going to start right up underneath the tail. Don't worry about if you go over the top of the tail, and you probably will, and that's okay. And I'm just going to start pulling down almost straight down, but I'm kind of curving it just a little bit this way. So all of these brush strokes are going to curve to the right just slightly. And down. Don't over brush it, so just kind of set it down and drag it and then let it go. Like I'm not going to go back and do that again and again, because what will happen is I'll get a solid line, and that may even be too solid there. I may have to go and lighten that up. Okay. Get as close to the whale tail as you can get. There we go. Getting more white now. I'm going to go over it with the white here. Really bright white now. There we go. All right, that's all I'm going to do for that part. I don't need to do any more. That's good enough. You get the idea. Now I'm going to use the edge of it. I'm going to tap it into the paint. I'm going to use the edge of it and go vertically and do these kind of vertical splashes coming off of it, and try to keep it random so they're not all matchy-matchy. You may turn your brush over or use a different part of it, maybe just the very tip of it in some places, and then, you know, angle it so that, because it's real easy for these fan brushes and, you know, brushes in general when you're doing these kind of tapping things to make it look like, make patterns in there. So just take your time, kind of go slowly, and really be thoughtful about where you're placing these. No, don't place too many of them all in the same, in a row. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I'm not going to go much farther than that. You don't really need to. We'll add a few little splatters with white, with our toothbrush too, but I'm going to use the medium color blue to start out, and I'm going to kind of do some splashes down here, and I'm going to go above, again, above the dark areas. Tap in, go right up over the top of the edge of that tail, so it's got a nice whitewashed foam section there. Splashing up around it. And let's use our toothbrush real quick. So I'm going to grab my toothbrush, pick up a little bit of that white. If you don't have your toothbrush, you can use your fan brush for this too. You don't have to. I found that the stiffer bristled toothbrushes work best for this kind of thing. And add enough water to make it kind of a milky consistency. The thinner the paint, the larger your splatters will be. So if you want smaller splatters, don't add quite as much water, but you need to add enough. If you don't add enough water, that won't come off your brush at all. So I hold it in my fist. I use my thumb, but you can use your other hand or another brush or something if you don't want to get your hand dirty. But I just use the thumb, face it towards it, point it down at the canvas, and flick. I don't think I cleaned this out yesterday when I painted because it's not wanting to come off here. It's like super stiff. Okay, there we go. I'm just going to keep those right around that whitewash area right there if I can. Keep it real. I'm actually getting pretty close to the canvas. I'm going to put a few up higher, but there we go. Let me do it one more time maybe. Tap it off on the paper towel before you go. And if you want to protect your whale tail and you don't want it to get any of the splashback on there, you can put a paper towel or something down, or you can just kind of dab it off after you paint it. Just make sure your background's dry, or it can lift your paint off, but our background's plenty dry by now, so I'm just going to dab off any of the little ones that got too high. Looks pretty good, I think. So now I'm going to grab a really thin like, that's a spotter brush, and I'm going to grab that little bit of white with it. Really liner brush, any small brush will do, and I'm just going to dab right in along these cascading sections and put in. Now this is totally unnecessary if you don't want to have to do this stuff, you know, if this stresses you out, just do as much as you want to. This is what I did with mine. So just adds a little bit more dimension, a little bit more interest. You can control it a little bit better than the fan brush, so you can get a little bit more interesting little dabs and patterns. And I'm going to use it down in my whitewash area too, and just create these little dabbing motions in my water. Notice I'm just kind of tapping up and down. I'm not really brushing from side to side. I'm just sort of tapping motion, creating these little, kind of do a little circular maybe every now and then. There we go. Oh, that looks good on camera. I'm looking down at the screen. Sometimes it's hard to see when you're painting your painting. So, I mean, if you're getting to a point where you're getting a little frustrated with your painting, you might just set it down, go get a snack, get a drink, and give yourself about 10 minutes or so, and then come back and look at it. And sometimes just having fresh eyes on it, and a little bit of space, looking at it from a little distance. I always, when my students are in with my, my classes, and they're like, I don't know, what do I need to do? I almost always will first lift it up and hold it up so they can see it from a distance. If there's something about looking at your artwork from a distance, you can usually see things that you don't see when you're right here and, focused real close to it. So that's a little trick that I would definitely get into the habit of doing while you're painting. Just every now and then just take a step back and look at, okay, isn't that fun? This was a really fun thing. I'm so excited to get to do this one because this is really fun. All right. I say that every time, but every new painting is a fun painting. That's how it should be, though. If you like to paint, every new painting is a fun. Okay, so I'm going to go back in here, and I'm just going to very lightly tap in a little bit of more of this tail, just because I feel like I lost that edge right there. Just going to tap in a little bit of color. That fan brush kind of covered up quite a bit of that tail right there. And I don't want it to disappear all the way. Okay, and I'm going to also kind of clean up that edge because that paint got over the edge a little bit. So I'm going to just use this brush and just clean up those edges, make it nice and smooth right there. Don't do too bad on that side. Looks pretty good. And then this, there again, there's parts of that tail that are kind of showing up back there. So I'm just tapping. Really don't want to undo all of the detail that I put there, but I do want to kind of go back in, and I think I covered up a little too much of it. All right, then I'm going to grab some Phthalo Blue, add just a teeny tiny bit of white, but I want to keep it pretty dark. And I'm going to add some shadows to these drops here. So, okay, a little too much paint on my brush there. There we go. So I'm going to come along, and next to these white dots, I'm just going to, not all of them, this will take forever if you try to do all of them, but I'm going to try to catch a few of these little sections here that I put in with my brush and just add a little bit of a shadow. This will really give it dimension, make it show up even that much better. Especially against your lighter areas, the white won't be as noticeable. So this extra blue will help in some of these lighter areas to, like, oh, that's, yeah, I see it now. See how you can see this side a lot better than that side already. So I'm just going to add a little bit of blue to the one side of some of these little sections here. And we're about done.
30 minutes.
No, not even close. No, I mean it this time. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of this down in here too, and just splatter some of these down in our dark splatter areas. Add some of that brighter blue down in there. Nope, oops, I got a little bit into my, almost touched one of my wet areas. So what I'll do there, let me grab my brush here. Let's just grab a little bit of that Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, just dab over that. Grab a little bit of lighter color, dab over that. And then here's where, now that this first layer is dried, we can go back in and go, okay, you know, I may want a little bit more light, you know, really bright highlight here and there. But honestly, this is going to be your brightest area of the water. The rest of it's fairly muted in color. So there wasn't a whole lot, if you look at the reference photo up there, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of value changes in this water here. This was definitely the brightest area. Oh, and I forgot, but there's a little bit of the pink in the whitewash too. So I'm going to grab some pink with the white here and mix a little bit of a light pink color with my Quinacridone Magenta. I still had blue on my brush, so it kind of turned it a little bit of a purpley pink color. I'm going to use a little bit of that in here too. Just tap it in a little bit. You don't need a lot. And maybe a little bit in the water too, but I'm going to thin it out with some glazing medium, so it's, I'm going to glaze some of that pink in here. Just a little bit. Okay. What do you think? Look good? Did I miss anything?
No.
I can use some of the glazing medium with the darker blue. I'm going to add a little bit in over here. I'm just noticing that we can maybe glaze a little bit of blue.
What was so funny?
The Dory reference.
Speaking
Can you
of
tell we've watched Finding Nemo way too many times? Okay. Yeah, that's good. So I'm just glazed over with a little bit of glazing medium and that Phthalo Blue, deeper Phthalo Blue mixture with a little bit of white. Add a little bit. What were you saying, Ann? He's not listening.
I wasn't saying anything.
Okay.
Hmm.
No, well, you started to say something. I think I cut you off earlier. All right, I think we're about done. I'm just gonna looking at the picture here to see if there's any last little minute things. I'm gonna add a little bit bright, really bright highlight to the whale. I think I'm out of my bright white though. I've mixed it all up with other colors, so there we go. Add a little bit of bright right there. I think I'm going to stop. I like it. What do you think? Good? You can zoom out. Stop. Yeah. Very good. Now looking at it, I might... where's my... might just do one more shot at that horizon line with a little bit darker color. So let me grab my It's really not that dark in the picture though, and actually you can't see it that much, but it's bugging me, so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to use just a little bit of the glazing medium with my Phthalo Blue. Wipe off most of it and just use that along the edge of my brush there. There we go. That just makes me happier. And I'm going to use it up in the corner here to deepen up the corners of the painting just a little bit. Give it a little bit deeper color. Sort of vignette, since it's darker around these corners, it'll kind of help sort of pull your focus in toward the middle. I think we're done. So I'm going to say thank you for watching, guys. We really appreciate you, as usual, watching and just stopping by and chatting with us while we're painting and having fun. I'm going to do more of this while I'm saying goodbye to you, but I promise Mark's laughing at me because he always, when I say we're almost done, it's always like 30 minutes. So I'm making sure that I'm going to end, though. I'm not going to let you win tonight. I'm realizing now I can add a little bit more of this blue up here. Yeah, that's better. Okay. I promise I'm really done this time. Let me sign it, and that way you know I'm for real. I'm going to grab my pen out. This is my Pigment Sakura, but you can use your Pitt pen if you have a Faber-Castell Pitt pen. I like to use them on these hardboard surfaces. They're really easy to write with, and I've got the link to the Pitt pens in my description. This one's just a little bit thinner, so I've started to use it, but either one, they're both waterproof and light fast and all that good stuff, so they'll last, and you can varnish right over them, no problem. So thanks for watching today, guys. I really appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do, and give it a thumbs up and share it. Maybe if you paint this with me, share it with me on social media and include a link for your friends to be able to find it, maybe. And we will see you on Saturday. Thanks again.